In 1947, a small clay fragment was pulled from the ruins of ancient Nineveh, modern-day Iraq. It was immediately handed to a British intelligence officer, not an archaeologist, not a historian. An intelligence officer within 72 hours. It was flown to London. It had disappeared from every official excavation record. For the next 4 decades, it didn't exist. No catalog number, no museum entry, no academic paper, just gone. In 2008, a retired government archivist filed a Freedom of Information request. He wasn't looking for this tablet specifically, he was looking for something else entirely. But what came back in the declassified files, buried in page 347 of a 600-page document, was a single photograph, and a note written in pencil that said, "Contents verified. Recommend continued suppression. Public knowledge of this translation creates unacceptable questions." What questions could a 4,000-year-old piece of clay possibly create that a government felt it needed to suppress for 40 years? That's what we're going to find out today. To understand why this tablet mattered, you first need to understand where it came from. Nineveh was the capital of the Assyrian Empire, one of the most powerful civilizations in human history. At its peak, it was the largest city in the world. When it fell, in 612 BC, it was buried, completely, violently. The Babylonians and Medes who destroyed Nineveh didn't just burn it. They buried it under meters of rubble and redirected a river over the ruins. They wanted it gone. For 2,000 years, it stayed gone. Then, in the mid-1800s, British archaeologists began excavating, and what they found inside the ruins of King Ashurbanipal's library changed history. Over 30,000 clay tablets. The largest ancient library ever discovered. Among them, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation story, medical texts, astronomical charts. Most were shipped to the British Museum, where they remain today. But, during the chaotic post-World War II excavations of 1947, when Iraq was still under significant British influence, a small team working in the deeper strata of the site unearthed something in a sealed clay vessel. Unlike the tablets in Ashurbanipal's library, this one was sealed inside a fired ceramic container, packed in a substance that archaeologists identified as bitumen, the ancient world's equivalent of a hermetic seal. Someone had gone to extraordinary lengths to preserve this specific tablet. And someone, 3,000 years later, went to extraordinary lengths to make sure nobody read it. The tablet is written in a dialect of Akkadian, the language of the Assyrian Empire, but the content itself appears to be a copy of a much older Sumerian source text. This is not unusual. The Assyrians were archivists. They copied everything. What is unusual is the subject matter. The tablet is divided into 4 sections. I'm going to walk you through each one. Section 1. The account of origins. The opening lines describe the Anunnaki, the divine beings of Sumerian cosmology, establishing what the text calls the second arrangement. Not the first, the second. This implies something came before. The text reads, in the most faithful translation available, after the first design failed and was unmade, the great ones descended again and shaped the clay differently. This time, they divided the knowing from the unknowing and placed the unknowing ones above. That phrase, above, is geographical. The Sumerian word used here, and ta, specifically means the surface, the world we live on, which means the knowing ones were placed somewhere else. Section 2. The structure of the worlds. This section is the one that caused the most alarm. The tablet describes 3 distinct layers of existence. An, the sky and heavens. Ki, the surface world, where humans live. Gal, which translates roughly as the great mountain below, or the deep lands. Now Kur is well known in Sumerian texts as the underworld, but Gal, the great Kur, is different. This distinction appears in almost no other tablets. And the description of Gal is specific in a way that is deeply uncomfortable to explain away as mythology. The text describes it as a place with its own source of light, described as a burning stone that does not consume itself, structured cities with roads that do not end, inhabitants who are described as those who remember the first arrangement, a boundary, a physical threshold between Gal and the surface world, which is described as the place where stone breathes, a burning stone that does not consume itself. Written 4,000 years ago. Section 3. The warning. This is the part the penciled note was referring to. The third section of the tablet is addressed directly to whoever is reading it. In a rhetorical device that was unusual even for ancient texts, the scribe shifts from third-person narrative to second person. He addresses the reader, he says, and again, this is the closest faithful translation. You who find these words in a future age, the boundary still holds. The great ones below have not departed. They wait in the arrangement they were given, but the boundary weakens when the deep earth is struck repeatedly, or when the waters beneath are disturbed. Do not strike the deep earth, do not disturb the waters beneath. A 4,000-year-old Sumerian scribe was issuing a warning about drilling into the ground, or about nuclear testing, or about whatever it is we've been doing to the deep earth for the past 100 years. Section 4. The return condition. The final section is the shortest and the most debated. It describes a set of conditions under which the inhabitants of Gal, those who remember, will return to the surface. The conditions are listed as signs. When the sky is filled with moving lights that were not made by nature. When the deep waters rise above the lowlands. When the languages of men multiply beyond counting, and yet they speak only one. When the young forget the old ways. Completely signs, 1 through 4. You can interpret those however you choose. This is the question that matters most. Ancient tablets say strange things all the time. They're studied, published, debated, archived. That's the normal process. So why was this one different? The archivist who filed the FOI request, a man named David Furlong, who worked for 22 years in the UK National Archives before retiring, gave an interview in 2011 in which he described what he found in that 600-page document. He said the suppression decision wasn't made by archaeologists. It was made by a joint committee. The committee included representatives from the British Foreign Office, a senior official from what was then the Ministry of Defense, and this is where it gets strange, 2 individuals listed only as scientific advisors, seconded from Project Corona. Project Corona was a classified American satellite reconnaissance program. What was a classified American satellite program doing in a committee deciding whether to suppress an ancient Sumerian tablet? Furlong's conclusion, and he was careful to say it was only a conclusion, was that the tablet's description of subterranean geography was considered sensitive. Not because of the mythology, because some of what the tablet described matched classified geological survey data that had been gathered using Corona's imaging technology in the late 1950s and 1960s. Specifically, the description of large void spaces at significant depth beneath certain regions of the Middle East. Voids that Corona had imaged, and that nobody had publicly explained. Here's where the story stops being purely historical. In 2014, a team of researchers published a study in the journal Nature, confirming the existence of a vast water reservoir locked in rock at 660 kilometers below the Earth's surface, containing roughly 3 times the volume of all surface oceans. Water, deep underground, at depths we have never physically accessed. In 2017, satellite imaging revealed massive cavities beneath the Antarctic ice sheet, a single connected void larger than France. In 2022, seismic mapping detected 2 enormous low-velocity zones near the Earth's core mantle boundary, one beneath Africa, one beneath the Pacific. Scientists call them LSVPs, large low shear velocity provinces. They are roughly the size of continents. They have been sitting there for, best estimate, over 1 billion years. Nobody knows what they are made of. Nobody knows why the seismic waves slow down when they pass through them. And the most honest thing the scientific community has said about them is this: they are compositionally distinct from the surrounding mantle. Something is down there that is different from everything around it. The Sumerians called it Kur.gal. Modern seismologists call it an anomaly. Both are describing something they cannot fully explain. Here's the bottom line. A Sumerian tablet was found in 1947 and immediately suppressed. Why? Because its translation matched classified geological data about massive voids beneath the Earth's crust. We have only drilled 12 kilometers down, meaning we've explored less than 0.2% of our own planet. The Sumerian scribe didn't bury this tablet for future archaeologists. He left it as a warning for whoever started striking the deep earth.